Vector Shuren had heard stories about humans his entire life. His teachers called them dangerous. His commanders called them unstable. His own father had once said that humans were the most frightening species in the galaxy, not because of their strength, but because they did not know when to stop. Now Vector stood in the landing bay of a coalition staging base on the moon called Kethris 4, watching a group of humans laugh together near their dropship. They were loud. They pushed each other and made strange noises that he assumed were jokes. One of them, a large male with dark skin, was pretending to fight another soldier while the others cheered. Vector felt his scales tighten against his neck. This was his new squad. These were the soldiers he would fight beside. A Thelani officer approached him and handed him a datapad. You have been assigned to Reconnaissance Unit 7, human-led. Sergeant Morrison is your squad leader. Vector looked at the humans again. Is there another option? No. The officer walked away, and Vector was left standing alone with his bag and his fear. He approached the group slowly. The humans stopped talking and turned to look at him. Vector was tall by Thelani standards, but these humans were not much shorter. The large one, who had been play-fighting, stepped forward. You must be our new guy, he said. His voice was deep and friendly. I am Danny Ortega. Welcome to the team. Vector nodded but said nothing. A woman with short black hair and kind eyes came forward next. I am Lisa Tran, combat medic. If you get hurt, I will fix you. If you do something stupid, I will yell at you first, then fix you. The other humans laughed. Vector did not understand why this was funny. Another woman, younger, with pale skin and red hair, waved from near the dropship. Amy Schultz, Tech and Communications. Nice to meet you. The last human was leaning against a supply crate, watching Vector with calm eyes. He was average height, with brown hair cut short, and a face that looked like it had seen many battles. He pushed himself up and walked over. I am Jake Morrison, he said. I lead this squad. You are Vector, correct? Yes. Jake extended his hand. Vector knew this human custom. He reached out and shook it. Jake's grip was firm, but not aggressive. Good, Jake said. Grab your gear. We have a briefing in 10 minutes. The briefing room was small and crowded. A holographic display showed a planet covered in darkness. Lieutenant Ben Castillo stood at the front, pointing at different areas of the map. This is Meridian 6, he said. 3 weeks ago, it was home to 3 million people. Now it is Vorath territory. Vector felt cold at the name. The Vorath. He had never seen them, but every species in the galaxy knew what they were. Parasites. Monsters. They did not just kill their victims. They consumed them, absorbed them, used their bodies to make more of themselves. The Vorath were the reason entire civilizations had vanished from history. Your mission is reconnaissance, Ben continued. Get down there, observe enemy positions, and report back. Do not engage unless necessary. We need information, not heroes. Jake nodded. Understood. One more thing, Ben said. His voice became quieter. We have received signals from the surface. There may be survivors. If you find any, use your judgment. After the briefing, Vector sat alone in a corner of the common area. He did not want to eat. He did not want to talk. He wanted to be anywhere else. A tray of food appeared in front of him. He looked up and saw Lisa standing there. You need to eat, she said. Empty stomach makes bad decisions. I am not hungry. Lisa sat down across from him anyway. First time working with humans? Yes, you are scared of us. Vector wanted to deny it, but he could not. My people say humans are unpredictable, dangerous. Lisa smiled. It was a warm smile, not threatening. We are, but not to our friends. She pushed the tray closer. "Eat. You are one of us now." Vectress ate. Later that night, as the squad prepared their equipment, Jake pulled Vectress aside. They stood near a window that looked out at the stars. "I know what your people think of us," Jake said. "I have heard it before. Humans are violent. Humans are crazy. Humans do not know fear. Is it not true?" Jake laughed softly. "We know fear. Trust me. We feel it just like everyone else." He looked out at the stars. "The difference is that we have learned to carry it. Fear does not stop us. It walks with us." Vectress did not fully understand, but he said nothing. "Look," Jake continued, "I do not care where you come from or what your people think of mine. When we go down there, we are a team. I protect you. You protect me. That is how it works." He turned to face Vectress directly. "We do not leave anyone behind. Ever. You understand?" "I understand. Good." Vectress did not believe him. He had heard officers make promises before. They were just words. The dropship launched an hour later. Vectress sat strapped into his seat, watching the humans around him. Danny was telling a story that made Amy laugh. Lisa was checking her medical supplies for the third time. Jake sat quietly, his eyes closed, his breathing steady. They did not look like monsters. They looked like soldiers. Tired, nervous, and trying to stay calm. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Meridian 6. Vectress looked out the small window beside him and saw the surface below Dot. It was covered in black. Not shadows. Not darkness. Something alive. It spread across the land like a disease, covering buildings, roads, and fields. It moved. It pulsed. It was waiting for them. Vectr felt his heart beating fast. His hands were shaking. Beside him, Danny leaned over and looked out the same window. His face became serious. "Yeah," Danny said quietly. "That is what fear looks like." The dropship descended toward the nightmare below, and Vectress realized that everything he thought he knew was about to change. The dropship landed in what used to be a city square. Now it was a graveyard of twisted metal and organic growth. Black tendrils covered every surface, climbing up buildings and spreading across the ground like veins. The air smelled wrong, sweet and rotten at the same time. Vectress covered his nose, but the smell pushed through anyway. Jake was the first one out. He moved quickly, his weapon raised, scanning the area. The others followed. Danny took position on the left. Lisa stayed close to Amy, who was already working on her scanner. "Clear for now," Jake said quietly. "Stay tight. Stay quiet. Move." They walked through the dead city in silence. Vectress had seen destruction before. He had seen war. But this was different. This was not destruction. This was consumption. Bodies were everywhere. Not lying on the ground, but fused into walls. Merged with buildings. Faces frozen in expressions of terror. Mouths open in silent screams. Some of them still had their eyes open. Vectress stopped walking. He could not move. He could not breathe. Lisa appeared beside him. "Do not look at them," she whispered. "Look at me. Look at my eyes. Breathe." He looked at her. Her eyes were steady, calm. She was afraid too. He could see it. But she was still moving. "Breathe," she said again. He breathed. They kept moving. The squad traveled deeper into the city, following Amy's scanner toward a signal she had detected. It was weak, but it was there. Something alive. Survivors? Jake asked. "Maybe," Amy said. "Signal is coming from underground. Old transit station, about 200 meters ahead." They found the entrance buried under rubble. Danny and Vectress worked together to clear a path while the others kept watch. When the hole was big enough, Jake went in first. The tunnel below was dark. Their lights cut through the blackness, revealing more of the same horror. More bodies. More growth. But also footprints. Fresh ones. They followed the tracks deeper until they reached a collapsed section that had been turned into a makeshift shelter. And there, huddled in the darkness, were the survivors. 12 of them. Natives of Meridian 6. Their species was small, with gray skin and large eyes. Most of them were adults, but there were 3 children among them. They looked up at the squad with terror in their eyes. Jake lowered his weapon immediately. "We are coalition forces," he said softly. "We are here to help." One of the adults, an older female, stepped forward. Her voice was shaking. "You came. We sent signals for weeks. We thought no one would come. We are here now," Jake said. "We are going to get you out." Vectress stepped forward. "Sergeant, our orders are reconnaissance only. We are not equipped for extraction." Jake looked at him. There was something hard in his eyes, but also something else. Something that Vectress did not recognize. "Our orders do not matter anymore," Jake said. "These people need help. We are helping them. But the mission is whatever I say it is." Jake turned back to the survivors. "Can you walk?" The old female nodded. "We can try." Lisa moved among the survivors, checking injuries, offering water. Danny knelt down in front of one of the children, a small girl who was crying quietly. He reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. "Hey," he said gently. "You hungry?" The girl looked at him with wide eyes. She was terrified of him. Vectress could see that. But Danny did not move. He just held out the food and waited. After a long moment, the girl took it. "There you go," Danny said. "My name is Danny. What is yours?" "Myra," the girl whispered. "That is a pretty name. You stick with me, okay? I am going to get you out of here." Vectress watched this exchange with confusion. These were soldiers, warriors. They were supposed to be focused on the mission, on survival. But here was Danny, taking time to comfort a child he had never met. Jake organized the group for movement. The survivors would stay in the middle, protected on all sides. They would move slowly, carefully. Back to the dropship. They made it halfway before everything went wrong. Amy's scanner beeped. Once, twice. Then it would not stop. "Contact," she said, her voice tight. Multiple signatures. Moving fast. Coming from the east. Jake raised his fist, and everyone stopped. The survivors pressed together, their fear rising like a wave. From the shadows ahead, something emerged. It was shaped like a person, but it was not a person. It was made of bodies. 3, maybe 4 victims fused together into one creature. It had too many arms, too many faces, and it was looking right at them. "Lorith Scout," Lisa breathed. The creature opened its mouths, all of them, and made a sound. A clicking, rattling noise that echoed through the ruins. Jake moved before anyone else could react. He raised his rifle and fired a single shot. The creature dropped, silent and still. "Move," Jake ordered. "Now, fast." They ran. The survivors stumbled and struggled, but the humans kept them moving. Danny carried one of the children. Lisa helped an injured adult. Amy guided them through the streets while watching her scanner. Behind them, the clicking sounds multiplied. More scouts. More Vorth. They had been found. "There," Amy pointed. "Industrial complex. Defensible. We can hold there." Jake nodded. "Everyone inside. Move." They reached the building just as the ground began to shake. Vectress looked back and saw them coming. Not dozens, hundreds. A wave of twisted bodies and screaming faces. Pouring out of the darkness like a flood. The doors slammed shut behind them. And the nightmare began. The last thing Vectress heard before the first impact against the walls was Danny's voice. calm and steady, speaking to the child in his arms. "Do not worry," Danny said. "We are going to be okay." Vectress wanted to believe him. But looking at what was coming, he did not know how anyone could survive this. The industrial complex had been abandoned long before the Vorath came. Old machines sat silent in the darkness. Dust covered everything. But the walls were thick, and the doors were heavy. And right now, that was all that mattered. Jake moved through the building like he had been there before. He pointed at positions, gave orders, and within minutes, the squad had turned the place into a fortress. "Danny, cover the east entrance. Amy, get that signal out. Lisa, take care of the wounded. Vectress, you are with me." Vectress followed Jake to a window overlooking the main approach. Outside, the Vorath were gathering. They did not attack immediately. They circled, watched, waited, testing. "They are smart," Jake said quietly. "Smarter than people think. They are looking for weaknesses. Will the doors hold?" For a while, Jake checked his weapon. Long enough for Amy to call for help. After that, we just have to survive until extraction arrives. Vectress looked at the creatures outside. Some of them had been soldiers once. Coalition soldiers. He could see the remains of uniforms stretched across their twisted bodies. "How do you do it?" Vectress asked. "Do what?" "Stay calm. Those things out there, they were people. They could be us. How do you look at that and not fall apart?" Jake was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "I do fall apart. Just not where anyone can see. That is the trick. You feel everything later. Right now, you focus on the job. You focus on the people depending on you. The fear is still there. You just put it in a box until you have time to deal with it." A loud bang echoed through the building. The Vorath were testing the doors. "They are probing," Jake said, "looking for the weak points. Amy, how is that signal coming?" Amy's voice came through the radio. "Working on it. Heavy interference. The Vorath are blocking standard frequencies. Keep trying." Jake turned to Vectress. "I need you to hold the north corridor, alone." Vectress felt his heart stop. "Alone? I do not have enough people to put 2 on every entrance. Danny is covering the largest approach. Lisa needs to stay with the survivors. Amy cannot leave her equipment." Jake put a hand on Vectress's shoulder. "I am trusting you with this. Can you do it?" Vectress wanted to say no. He wanted to admit that he was terrified, that he was not ready, that he was not a human who could put fear in a box. But Jake was looking at him with something that might have been respect. No one had ever looked at Vectress like that before. "I can do it," Vectress said. "Good. Go." The north corridor was narrow and dark. Vectress set up behind a pile of old machinery, his weapon pointed at the door at the far end. He could hear the Vorath outside, scratching at the walls, making those horrible clicking sounds. He was alone. More alone than he had ever been in his life. Time passed. Minutes felt like hours. The scratching continued. Sometimes it would stop, and the silence was even worse, because then he did not know where they were. A crash came from somewhere else in the building. Weapons fire, screaming, then silence again. The radio crackled. "They breached the east side," Danny's voice said. He sounded strained. "Push them back. 2 down. We are okay. 2 down." Vectress did not know if that meant 2 Vorath or 2 survivors. More time passed. Vectress's hands were shaking. He tried to remember what Jake had said. Put the fear in a box. Focus on the job. Focus on the people depending on you. The door at the end of the corridor exploded inward. Vorath poured through. 3 of them, moving fast, their twisted limbs carrying them across the floor like spiders. Vectress fired. His first shot hit one of them in the chest, and it stumbled but did not fall. He fired again, Again, the creature finally dropped. The second one reached him before he could aim. It slammed into his cover, knocking him backward. He saw faces in its body. Crying faces. Screaming faces. People who had been consumed and were still somehow aware. He froze. The creature raised an arm made of fused bones and muscle. It was going to kill him. Then Jake was there. He came out of nowhere, slamming into the creature from the side, firing his weapon point blank into its body. The thing screeched and fell. Jake spun and shot the third creature before it could reach them. Silence. Jake reached down and pulled Vectress to his feet. "You okay?" Vectress could not speak. He was shaking all over. "Hey." Jake grabbed his face, forced him to make eye contact. "Look at me. You are okay. You are alive. The first time is always the hardest. But you held your ground. You slowed them down. That matters." I froze. Everyone freezes. The important thing is what you do next. Jake released him. "Come on. We need to reinforce the main room. They are going to try again." They returned to find the survivors huddled together in the center of the complex. Lisa was wrapping a wound on Danny's arm. He was still making jokes, but his face was pale. "Just a scratch," Danny said when he saw them. "You should see the other guy." "How many?" Jake asked Lisa. "We lost one survivor. The father of one of the children." Lisa's voice was heavy. "The boy saw it happen." Vectress looked at the survivors. A young boy sat apart from the others, his eyes empty, staring at nothing. Danny walked over and sat down beside him. He did not say anything. He just sat there, present, a silent comfort. Amy finally spoke. "I got through. Extraction is coming. But it will be 6 hours." 6 hours. Vectress looked at the doors, at the walls, at the creatures gathering outside. 6 hours might as well be 6 years. Jake nodded slowly. "Then we hold for 6 hours. He said it like it was simple. Like it was possible. Like there was no other option. And looking at him. At Lisa still treating wounds, at Danny sitting with a broken child. At Amy working her equipment with bloody hands. Vectress realized something. These humans were not fearless. They were terrified. He could see it in their eyes, and the way their hands trembled, and the tightness of their voices. They were just as scared as he was, but they were not going to stop. They were going to fight until their bodies gave out, until there was nothing left, because that was what they did. That was who they were. For the first time, Vectress understood why the galaxy feared them, and for the first time, he was glad they were on his side. The first hour was the worst. The Vorath attacked in waves. They would throw themselves at the doors and windows, retreat when the squad pushed them back, and then attack again from a different angle. They were testing, learning, adapting. Vec is fought beside Jake at the main entrance. His weapon grew hot in his hands. His muscles burned. But every time he wanted to stop, he looked at Jake still firing, still moving, still fighting, and he kept going. Danny held the east corridor alone after his wound reopened. Lisa tried to pull him back, but he refused. "Someone has to hold it," he said through gritted teeth. "I am that someone." Amy worked between fighting and her equipment. Every few minutes she would check for updates from Lieutenant Ben Castillo and his relief force. Every few minutes the answer was the same. Delayed. Ambushed. Coming as fast as they could. The survivors stayed in the center of the complex, protected by walls of machinery that the squad had pushed into place. The children were quiet. Too quiet. They had seen too much to cry anymore. During a break in the attacks, Jake gathered everyone together. "Listen up," he said. His voice was tired but steady. "We have 5 more hours until extraction. The Vorath are going to keep coming. They are going to hit us harder each time. But we have something they do not have." "What is that?" Vectress asked. Each other. Jake looked at each of them in turn. We are not fighting alone. We are fighting together. And as long as we stand together, we do not fall. Understand? They understood. The second wave came an hour later, bigger than before. The Vorath had gathered their forces and hit every entrance at once. Vectress found himself back in the North Corridor, but this time, Danny was beside him. They fought shoulder to shoulder, covering each other, calling out targets. When Vectress ran low on ammunition, Danny tossed him a magazine without being asked. When Danny stumbled from his wound, Vectress caught him and kept him upright. In the chaos, Vectress heard Lisa shouting, "Medical emergency. I need help here." One of the adult survivors had collapsed. Heart failure from the stress. Lisa worked on him desperately, pumping his chest, trying to bring him back. The other survivors watched with hollow eyes. Jake appeared at Vectress's side. "Hold this position. I am going to help Lisa. But the attack, you can do this. You have proven that already." Jake squeezed his shoulder once, then ran toward Lisa. Vectress turned back to the corridor. More Vorath were coming. He raised his weapon and fired. He did not freeze this time. The survivor Lisa was trying to save did not make it. She closed his eyes gently and covered him with a cloth. Then she stood up, wiped the blood from her hands, and went back to fighting. Vectress did not understand. How could she do that? How could she lose someone, feel that pain, and then immediately keep going? Later, during another brief pause, he asked her. Lisa's eyes were red, but her voice was calm. "Because the others still need me. I can mourn later. Right now, there are people who are still alive, and they need me to stay focused." She looked at him. That is what being human means. We break, but we do not stay broken. Not until the job is done. The third wave brought something new. It came through the east wall like the wall was made of paper. A harvester. Vectress had heard of them, but never seen one. It was massive, 3 meters tall, built from dozens of bodies merged into one nightmare. It had no face, just a mass of limbs and mouths and eyes. Danny was directly in its path. The harvester swung one of its massive arms and sent Danny flying across the room. He hit the wall hard and did not get up. "Danny!" Lisa screamed. The harvester turned toward the survivors. The children. It was heading for the children. Jake ran. Not away. Toward it. He put himself directly between the harvester and the survivors. His weapon looked tiny against the creature's bulk, but he fired anyway. Again and again. The harvester screamed, a sound made of 100 voices, and focused on him. It hit him. Claws raked across his chest, tearing through his armor. Jake fell, but rolled away before the second strike could land. He got back up. Blood poured from his wounds, but he kept firing. "Jake, fall back." Amy shouted. He did not fall back. He could not. If he moved, the harvester would reach the survivors in seconds. Vectress watched this happen. He watched Jake bleeding, dying, refusing to move. And something inside him changed. He charged. He did not think about it. He just moved. His weapon was in his hands, and he was firing at the harvester's back, drawing its attention away from Jake. The creature turned. One of its arms caught Vectress across the side, and pain exploded through his body. But he did not stop. He kept firing. Lisa was there too, somehow. And Amy. All of them, together, pouring everything they had into the monster. The harvester stumbled, fell, stopped moving. Vectress collapsed beside it, gasping for air. His side was on fire. He looked over and saw Jake lying nearby, his eyes half closed, his breathing shallow. Lisa ran to Jake first. Her hands moved fast, applying pressure, pulling out medical supplies. "Stay with me," she said. "Jake, stay with me. The survivors," Jake whispered. They are safe. You saved them. Now let me save you. Danny limped over, holding his ribs. Did we get it? We got it, Amy said. She sounded exhausted. Ben just radioed. Relief force broke through. They are engaging the Varth from behind. 30 minutes out. 30 minutes. They just had to hold for 30 more minutes. Vectress pulled himself up and looked at the squad. Danny could barely stand. Lisa was covered in blood. Amy's hands were shaking. Jake was unconscious. And outside, the Varth were massing for one final push. Vectress picked up his weapon. His body screamed at him to stop, but he ignored it. What are you doing? Danny asked. What you would do, Vectress said, holding the line. Danny stared at him for a moment. Then he smiled, a real smile despite everything. You know something? You are starting to sound like one of us. Vectress did not know if that was a compliment or an insult. But standing there, wounded and exhausted, surrounded by humans who refused to give up, he realized it did not matter. He was one of them now, and they would face whatever came next together. The final wave came as the sky began to lighten. Vectress stood at the main barricade, looking out at the sea of Varth gathering in the darkness. There were hundreds of them now, maybe thousands. They moved like one organism, clicking and screaming, preparing for the final assault. Behind him, Jake lay unconscious on a makeshift stretcher. Lisa had stopped the bleeding, but he needed real medical care soon. Danny sat nearby, one arm wrapped tight against his chest, the other holding his weapon. Amy had given up on her equipment and stood beside Vectress at the barricade. The survivors were pressed against the back wall. The old female who had spoken to them first was holding the 3 children close. Little Mira, the girl Danny had comforted, was clutching the empty wrapper from the ration bar he had given her. How many shots do you have left? Amy asked. VKTR as checked his weapon. 40, maybe 50. I have 30. Amy's voice was steady, but her hands were not. Danny? Enough, Danny said from behind them. He did not sound like he was joking anymore. The Varth began to move. The wave started slowly, then built speed, rushing toward the complex like a tide of nightmares. The clicking sound grew louder. The screaming grew louder. VKTR is raised his weapon. This is it, he thought. This is where we die. But then he thought of Jake, standing alone against the harvester. He thought of Lisa, working to save lives even as she lost them. He thought of Danny, telling jokes while he bled. He thought of Amy, never giving up on that signal. These humans had taught him something. Fear was not weakness. Fear was natural. What mattered was what you did with it. VKTR is fired. The first Varth fell. Then the second. Then the third. Beside him, Amy fired too. Behind them, Danny dragged himself to a position and added his weapon to the defense. The creatures kept coming. For every one that fell, 2 more took its place. They reached the barricade. They started climbing over. Vector switched to close combat. He used his weapon as a club, smashing aside reaching limbs and snapping jaws. A Varth grabbed his arm, and he felt claws tear through his scales. He screamed, but did not stop fighting. Amy went down. A creature tackled her, and she disappeared under a pile of twisted bodies. Vectress tried to reach her, but more Varth blocked his path. Then he heard it. A sound from outside. Not clicking. Not screaming. Something else. Something mechanical. Engines. The ceiling exploded inward as a coalition dropship tore through, its weapons blazing. Varth scattered and burned under the assault. More ships followed, filling the sky, raining fire on the enemy below. Ground forces poured through the gaps. Soldiers in full combat armor, led by a tall man with lieutenant markings. Then Castillo. He moved through the chaos like a force of nature, cutting down Vorath with precise, efficient strikes. "Sergeant Morrison!" Ben shouted. "Where is Sergeant Morrison?" "Here," Lisa called out. "He is wounded. We need immediate evacuation." Ben's soldiers formed a perimeter around the survivors. Medical teams rushed in. Vectors felt hands grab him, pull him back, lay him down. "Easy," someone said. "You are safe now. It is over. It is over." Vectr is lay on his back and stared at the sky. Dawn was breaking. Actual light, not the glow of weapons fire. He could see clouds. Real clouds. The darkness was retreating. They had survived. The evacuation was a blur. Vectress remembered being carried onto a ship. He remembered seeing Jake loaded onto another stretcher, Lisa walking beside him, refusing to leave. He remembered Danny giving a weak thumbs up as medics worked on his wounds. He remembered little, Mira running to Danny before they separated her from the squad. She hugged him tight, and Danny hugged her back with his one good arm. "Thank you," she whispered. "Anytime, kid," Danny said. His voice cracked. "Anytime." 3 weeks later, Vector sat in a recovery ward on a coalition station. His wounds were healing. The nightmares were not, but the doctors said that was normal. It would take time. Jake was in the bed next to him. He was awake now, weak but alive. The doctor said he would make a full recovery. They said it was a miracle he had survived at all. Jake did not call it a miracle. He called it stubbornness. "I heard what you did," Jake said one evening. "At the end, you held the line when everyone else was down." Vector shook his head. "I just did what you would have done. That is my point." Jake smiled. It was the first real smile Vectress had seen from him. "You are one of us now, whether you like it or not." Vectress thought about that. He thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the horror, the moments when he was sure he would die. But also the moments of kindness. Danny with the children. Lisa with the wounded. Jake standing alone against a monster to protect strangers. "I have a question," Vector said. "Ask. Why? Why do humans do this? Risk everything for people you do not know. Fight battles you cannot win. Die for causes that give you nothing." Jake was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Because someone has to," he said. "The galaxy is dark and cold and full of things that want to hurt us. If good people do not stand up, if we do not fight, then the darkness wins. And I refuse to let that happen." He looked at Vectress. "We are not special. We are not stronger or smarter or braver than anyone else. We are just too stubborn to quit." Vectress nodded slowly. He understood now. He finally understood. Months later, Vectress was asked to give testimony about the mission. Officers wanted to know what happened, how the squad survived, what they faced. He told them everything. The horror, the fighting, the losses. But mostly he told them about the humans. He told them about Jake, who put his body between death and innocent lives. About Lisa, who never stopped trying to save people. About Danny, who joked and laughed to keep everyone sane. About Amy, who never gave up. He told them what it meant to fight alongside humans, to witness their fear and their courage, to see them at their worst and their best. At the end of his testimony, an officer asked him a simple question. "Would you fight alongside humans again?" Vectress did not hesitate. "Every time," he said, "until the stars go dark." And he meant it.